Let's take a look at an excerpt from this book, Mormonism Unveiled, from John Spalding, the brother of Solomon Spalding. This was not the first time that Joseph Smith had been accused of misdeeds. In fact, in 1832, Joseph Smith and Sidney Rigdon were tarred and feathered for, quote, acts of depravity against 15-year-old Miranda Johnson by her brothers. In 1843, English Royal Navy officer and novelist Captain Marryat wrote a book called The Travels and Romantic Adventures of Monsieur Violet. Let's take a look at a few excerpts from that book. Not to be deterred, however, Joseph Smith, armed with his new religion, received a, quote, revelation from God in the fall of 1836, and together with Sidney Rigdon started his own bank, the Kirtland Safety Society Bank. Smith and Rigdon went into full production of their money, printing and signing it as fast as they could. Unfortunately, the bank was a sham designed to swindle people out of their money, and wasn't worth the paper it was written on. I guess you could say the whole thing was as hokey as a $3 bill, which was where the term comes from, since the $3 bills were the most printed and distributed by Smith and Rigdon. In April of 1837, Smith went into hiding due to numerous lawsuits that had been brought against him. Joseph Smith and Sidney Rigdon did not die from being tarred and feathered, and in fact continued to promote their new religion. In July of 1835, Joseph Smith purchased an Egyptian papyrus from a traveling salesman, with which he created more scripture, namely the Book of Abraham. The Book of Abraham is considered to be as scriptural as the Book of Mormon.
Here is a picture of the rediscovered papyrus. Take note of the sketching performed in the missing portions. Joseph Smith claimed that the papyrus depicted the idolatrous priest of Elkanah attempting to offer up Abraham as a sacrifice. Based on this assertion, he published Facsimile 1 in the Times and Seasons magazine. A copy of Facsimile 1 is shown on the right side. Even though it is obvious that Facsimile 1 comes from this papyrus, some Mormons suggest that it could have come from a similar picture contained in the parts of the original papyrus that did not survive. This animation demonstrates that such an argument is baseless. Note how the images line up almost perfectly. Also note that these images were hand-drawn on the papyrus, so it is inconceivable that even a similar image would bear such a close resemblance to Facsimile 1. Charles Larson, in his book titled By His Own Hand Upon Papyrus, shows the professional reconstruction of the original scene in the papyrus. According to Egyptologists, it is actually a typical embalming scene found in the Egyptian Book of Breathings, and depicts Osiris lying on a lion couch, with the Egyptian god Anubis, with the jackal's head, bending over him. The Egyptian texts surrounding the image support the fact that this is an embalming scene, and not the attempted sacrifice of Abraham, as Joseph Smith claimed. This clearly demonstrates that Joseph Smith could not translate Egyptian, and that the so-called Book of Abraham, believed by the Latter-day Saints to be Holy Scripture, was a pure fabrication.
On June 7, 1844, when a local paper, the Nauvoo Expositor, decried Smith's doctrines of many gods and polygamy, Smith responded by mobilizing his personal army, the Nauvoo Legion, to destroy the paper. Public outcry was against him, however, and the state militia mobilized. After attempting to fight them, he surrendered and was placed in custody in the Carthage jail in Illinois. On June 27, 1844, Smith ordered the Nauvoo Legion to attack the jail and free him. The commander, however, disobeyed his orders, and later that evening an angry mob attacked the jail. Smith, which had this pepper-box pistol that was smuggled into him, attempted to fight back, and after killing several people, was killed himself while climbing out the window and attempting to flee. 5 men were tried for his murder, and all were acquitted. This picture here shows the actual jail in Carthage where Smith was killed. The question is, however, though, when Smith died, the doctrine of Mormonism did not die with him, and in fact is becoming more and more prevalent. With now more than 11 million people throughout the world, it is something of concern and interest to everyone. We've looked at the man, but now let's look at the legacy that he left behind. What have the Mormons, the Latter-day Saints, become? What do they do, and what do they truly believe in?